So what's up, everybody? I am back from my tour, back home in New York City. I just want to share a little bit with you. It was the most amazing trip of my life. I mean, it exceeded my expectations. It was amazing. I mean, it was beautiful. The response was overwhelming. I learned so much. The Q&As were amazing. The venues were great. The people that ran them were beautiful. Everybody who hosted me was so generous to me and so nice to me. I mean, the people that showed up were, it was just unbelievable. I mean, it's really hard for me to describe. So I tried to write about it yesterday. I wanted to post something on my blog and my website. And after spending 2 hours writing about it, my computer deleted what I had written. So I don't know. I guess I wasn't supposed to share those words with you. But anyway, I wanted to share a little bit here with you. I just wanted to tell you that I guess in my mind the tour really started after I'd raised the money at Kickstarter. I did a show at called the Drilling Company Theater, and I had the most it was like a magnificent show, packed house, and it was just, the energy in there was just crazy. It was like, I felt like we were all in this airplane. We strapped up and we just took a ride together, and it was kind of turbulent, but it was cool, and we did it together, and it was just, you know, it was amazing for me. And the Q&A afterwards was profound and beautiful, and I learned a lot, as I always do. And so anyway, I did that show, and then about, I don't know, about a week later, I guess, I took off for the first city, which was Denver. And when I got to Denver, I was picked up by my old college roommate, who I hadn't actually seen for quite a while. Well, actually, I hadn't seen him for a long time, but his wife ran the New York City Marathon this past November, and so we connected for the first time since I was in college, and we ate dinner together and just kind of started to talk about what I was doing and kind of put it into the universe that I was going to come to Denver to do the show. And so that was the first place I went on the tour, and they had me stay at their house. They were so generous to me and so amazing, and they actually probably put about 20 or 30 people into the room themselves, and we had a full house at the Art Garage, which is a beautiful art gallery that was a converted gas station, and it was an amazing show. The energy was high, the people were so receptive. I was a little nervous because Denver's kind of conservative compared to New York City, and you know, I was talking about things like, you know, my biological mother, like I'm not quite sure I want to meet her because what if she's a Republican? And I'm sure there were a lot of Republicans in the audience, with all due respect, and they were great. They laughed at themselves. It was really great. So the show was amazing. I actually had also done a show during the day at a theater called Crossroads, and it was a small, very intimate crowd, but there was somebody there from the Curious Theater. Mayor, what's up? And so I'm really hoping I get to come back and do the show at the Curious Theater in Denver. The show during the day was great too. So anyway, stayed in Denver. It was beautiful. It brought back a lot of memories for me. You know, when I went to Colorado State University, it was really the first time I had spent any significant time out in New York. So I felt like that was a place where I kind of grew up a little bit, you know. And so anyway, it was good to be back there. And then I flew out of there and I went to Seattle. And in Seattle, I actually met my father's cousin, who I had never met before. I didn't even know she existed, and she didn't know anything about me. And so she let me stay with her, and she was amazing to me, and so generous, and so nice, and so wonderful. And she took me all over Seattle, and she loved Seattle the way I love New York City, and it was really great to see that beautiful city through her eyes. And I also got to connect with a friend of mine, Richard Ziman, who, by the way, my college roommate is Marcus Robinson and his beautiful wife Sandra back in Denver. Fast forward, so got to hang out with Richard Ziman, a good friend of mine who used to live in my building on 95th Street and Amsterdam Avenue here in the city. He spent most of his life there, and I spent most of my life there too. And he had moved to Seattle, and I was working out there in the theater, and he hosted the show for me. He found me the venue. He pretty much took care of everything, and we had a beautiful crowd. I got to meet, you know, Nilki Benitez, who is a poet out there and who is from Seattle and does a lot of beautiful things out there. And you know, we've been kind of talking to each other on Facebook and things like that for a long, long time, and it was amazing to finally meet her. And the rest of the people came to the show. It was an amazing show. The Q&A again was great. The venue was a place where they do a lot of play readings and backers auditions and things like that, and it's called the Sandbox Studio. And this woman Annette was just so generous to let us use the space, and it was beautiful. I was surrounded by these old pinball machines, so I kind of felt like the Joker doing my show, and it was really cool. It felt great. So did Seattle, and I left there, and it was beautiful, and headed to Oakland. And in Oakland I get picked up by this woman named Walker, who, I don't know, like the minute I met her I felt like she was my family. And it turned out that we had very similar stories. Like, you know, she had also lived in a few foster homes before she was adopted, and it was just, we had very similar stories. So she drove me around, and we shared some food together, and then she dropped me off at this woman Lisa Marie's house, who was hosting me in Oakland. Lisa Marie has an organization that supports black children who are adopted by white families, and so Lisa Marie found me the venue, which was the Joyce Gordon Gallery, which is an amazing art gallery in downtown Oakland, and Lisa Marie hooked it up, and she also supplied most of the crowd. It was another pretty much full house, a very visceral and kind of intimate, powerful, beautiful shared experience with the audience. I just felt like it was this amazing thing. And my boy Tongo showed up, you know, from he's this amazing poet, social activist, and amazing human being. And he was living in New York for a long time, and he moved back to Oakland, and he showed up at the show. And just a lot of people that I knew, but mostly people I didn't know, and a lot of people from the adoption community, and it was very profound. And so if you check my website, if you go to brokewideopen.com, you can see most of the comments. Humbling, just you know, just kind of confirmed to me that, you know, all the hard work that I'm doing is really kind of, you know, important for me to do. That I need to continue to do this work, because I feel like it's not just all about me. You know, it's all about a lot of other people. They seem to be responding to it, and I feel like I'm making like a real contribution, which is, I don't know, I guess the most important thing for me. Like, I always want to feel like I'm not just like taking up space, you know, running around the world going, look at me, look how great I am. It's like I want to leave some kind of legacy and make some kind of contribution to the world, and I don't know, you know, not to sound like I'm important or anything, but I do. I want to make some kind of contribution. I don't have kids, and, you know, I'm an artist, so I'm just trying to do that, you know, trying to do something that's important, that feels important to other people, that they can maybe get something from, and that I certainly get a lot from. So anyway, I digress. Oakland was amazing. Lisa Marie was like, I don't know, like my family. She treated me amazingly. She was generous. She was beautiful. She opened up her home to me, and she trusted me, and I will never forget her. She's one of the most amazing people I've ever met, and I look forward to seeing her show as well. So then I left Oakland, and I headed to Los Angeles, where I first stayed with my brother, and I got to spend some time with my nephew. And my brother lives way down in the South Bay, so I got out of there after the first night, and I stayed with my friend Hillary Rollins, who is the daughter of Jack Rollins, who is kind of like a mentor and kind of like a second father to me, who really, in a large part, is the reason that I'm doing this show. I mean, he helped me to do an album 4 years ago that was where this play was born. It's also called Broke Wide Open. And so anyway, I got to stay with Hillary, which is kind of like staying with family, and she was, again, another person who just was so giving and open, and just allowed me into her home, and just was generous and beautiful, and came to the show. And my best friend Francesca, Hillary's sister, was there, and my old girlfriend Debbie came with her husband, and my friend Ava. All these people came that I know. My brother actually came, and there were actually people who were in my script who were in that audience, and so that felt so heavy. And I did it at a place called Word Space in the Valley, and it's owned by this woman Brenda Varda, and it's a place where playwrights and spoken word artists work out a lot of stuff, and that was one of those venues that just felt like magic. I mean, it felt spiritual in there, like a lot of really special, amazing things happen in there, and it was really like truly my honor to be in there. I mean, I just felt like I was performing in a place where a lot of people before me had done some really special things, so it felt really really pretty cool to be in there. And my boy Michael Racy's showed up early and ran the whole show for me. He sold my books, he sold my CDs, he was so helpful, as he always is. And I don't know, I could go on and name many people. My friend Richie, so many people, so I'm not going to name all the names. But so LA was very successful. It was also packed. We had a beautiful Q&A afterwards, and I left LA the next day. Oh, the cool thing about LA too is that I did a rehearsal in the street the day of the show. I ran the whole show on the streets in Santa Monica and Venice, and it was the first city I've ever been in where there were more people out in the street talking to themselves than me, because as a lot of people know, I do my show in the street all the time. I rehearse in the street. I actually perform in the street a lot, and I got to say, in Santa Monica there were a lot of people out there doing a lot more talking than I do to myself, so that was pretty cool. So anyway, I left LA, headed to Chicago. Chicago, home of Steppenwolf, the Goodman, the Court. I mean, it's an amazing theater town. It's a place that I have such reverence for, and it's a place that's very, very special to me. And so I was very excited to go there, and it was really the first place where I had time just completely to myself, because I stayed in a hotel in Chicago, and it was the only time I stayed in a hotel. And I stayed down in the Loop, and I got to travel around on the trains, which it's pretty well documented. I love riding around on the trains with nowhere in particular to go, and it was just awesome. And I did the show the next day. After I got there, it was the only matinee performance that I had done. Well, I did 2 shows in Denver, a matinee and an evening performance, but with this particular city, I only did a matinee, and it wasn't as heavily attended as the other cities. I was a little disappointed, but the people that were there were it was a very special experience, and it just kind of, I think all these cities, but Chicago really showed me, because it was a smaller crowd, that the thing I love about the theater is that like every experience, like every show that you do is completely different than any other show. Even though it's the same script and it's the same words, the energy is completely different every time you do it. And in Chicago, it was just very special, and it was like we had this experience that just felt like us, but it was like that in every city. I mean, every performance was vastly different, but the same story, and it always just felt like, I'm looking at the audience, and we're having this shared experience that nobody else is ever going to have again. And what happens in the theater that night is never going to happen again. So Chicago really felt like that day, and we had a nice Q&A afterwards. We just kind of sat around, and it was like hanging out with with a few friends. It was really amazing, and so I got to eat some good Chicago pizza. I went to eat breakfast at the Heartland Cafe the next day, which is an amazing place, and my trip was like over. I went to the airport, and I flew home, and I'm back here in New York City now, and I'm not even coming close to describing what this trip was really like, but I had the greatest time of my life, and it just kind of confirmed how powerful this is for me, this journey. I mean, I've been working on this play for 4 years now, and I'm really looking forward to progressing and seeing where it's going to go from here. I feel like I laid a lot of, planted a lot of seeds, and now I'm thinking about the next 5 cities and 5 cities after that, and it looks like I might be going to Paris in December. I'll get back to you on that. And there's a lot of stuff going on, so who knows what's next. But I know one thing, I am in all the way. This project is my whole life, broke wide open, rock WILK, one and the same. I am completely committed to it. This is what it takes. It is the most valuable thing that I have, and I'm going to keep working on it, so I hope you keep coming. Thank you so much for the support, and I'm going to be back with more. So, hope everybody's well. Spring is coming in New York City. I will speak to you soon. Alright? Peace.